You think you know what happens. You take your helmet off in space and you explode. Or you freeze solid in an instant. Or your eyes burst out of your skull. Every movie you have ever seen told you one of those three things. Every single one of them is wrong. You do not explode. Your skin and your blood vessels are a pressure vessel, and they are strong enough to hold you together. You do not freeze. A vacuum is one of the best insulators ever discovered, and radiation sheds heat slowly. And your eyes stay exactly where they are. What actually happens is narrower, quieter, and far worse than any of those things. You get about 15 seconds, and those 15 seconds are the most horrifying countdown your body will ever run. The reason you do not explode is the same reason a submarine does not implode when it surfaces. Your body is already a pressure vessel. Your skin is flexible but immensely strong. Your blood vessels, your capillaries, the entire network of vasculature that carries blood to every corner of your tissue, that network is designed to hold pressure. It holds you in. The pressure differential between inside and outside, even in hard vacuum, is only about 1 atmosphere. That is 14 pounds per square inch pushing outward against skin that evolved to contain exactly that kind of force. You will swell. You will swell dramatically, but you will not tear. Your skin will stretch to perhaps twice its normal volume. It will hurt. It will look grotesque, but it will not break. The vessel holds. And the cold. Everyone assumes space is cold, and therefore you freeze instantly. But freezing requires heat to leave your body, and heat requires a medium to carry it away. On Earth, air or water pulls heat from you through conduction and convection. In vacuum, there is no medium. There is nothing to carry your heat. The only way your body can shed thermal energy is through radiation, the slowest possible mechanism. Radiation is how a cooling fin works on a satellite, and those take hours to drop a few degrees. You will not flash freeze. You will not even feel cold, not at first. What you will feel is something else entirely. Something that starts not with temperature, but with pressure. Something that begins at an altitude of 19 kilometers. In 1953, an Air Force physician named Harry George Armstrong published a paper that drew a line in the sky. He calculated the altitude at which the atmospheric pressure becomes so low that water boils at the temperature of the human body. That line sits at roughly 19 kilometers, about 62,000 feet. At that altitude, the pressure is about 6.3 kilopascals. Below that threshold, your body is no longer a sealed system. The water inside you is no longer content to stay liquid. At sea level, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius because the atmospheric pressure pushing down on it is strong enough to keep the molecules trapped in liquid form. As pressure drops, the boiling point falls. At 6.3 kilopascals, water boils at 37 degrees Celsius. 37 degrees. That is your core body temperature. That is the temperature of your blood, your saliva, the fluid in your eyes, the moisture in your lungs. At the Armstrong limit, you do not need heat to boil. You are already hot enough. You are the heat source. And the vacuum of space is not at the Armstrong limit. Space is far past it. The process has a name: Ebullism. It is the formation of gas bubbles in bodily fluids at reduced ambient pressure. It does not happen all at once. It happens from the outside in. The wet tissues nearest the surface go first. The moisture on your eyes, the saliva on your tongue, the fluid lining your airways. These are the most exposed, and these are the first to bubble. Your eyes will not burst, but the tears on their surface will begin to fizz. Your tongue will feel something strange, something like carbonation, because the saliva is literally boiling. Then the deeper tissues, the capillaries near your skin. Gas bubbles form in your blood, not from within, but because the pressure holding those gases dissolved has simply vanished. This is not a violent event. It is a quiet one, and it is happening while you are still conscious. You will feel it. You will know it is happening to you, and you will have roughly 15 seconds to understand what is being done before your brain runs out of oxygen. That is the real number. Not the explosion, not the freeze, not the burst. 9 to 15 seconds of useful consciousness. After your helmet is gone, your lungs will vent. The oxygen already committed to your bloodstream, already on its way to your brain, is all you have left. That oxygen will last somewhere between 9 and 15 seconds, depending on your physiology, your exertion, your stress level. During those seconds, you will be awake. You will be aware. You will feel the ebullism begin. You will feel the saliva boil on your tongue. And you will know that the clock is running. 15 seconds. That is not a number from a movie. That is a number from a chamber in Houston, Texas, in 1966, when a man lost his suit pressure and stayed conscious long enough to tell us exactly what it feels like. Jim LeBlanc was not an astronaut. He was a technician at the NASA Manned Spacecraft Center. On December 14, 1966, he was inside a vacuum chamber, wearing a prototype spacesuit, performing a routine test. The chamber pressure was at the equivalent of about 36 kilometers of altitude. At some point during the test, a tube in his suit failed. The suit lost pressure. LeBlanc did not have time to react. He did not have time to be afraid. His last conscious memory, the thing his brain recorded before it went dark, was the sensation of saliva boiling off his tongue. He felt it. He knew what it was. He later described it as the fogging of his vision, and then the taste on his tongue, a strange, wet heat, and then nothing. He stayed conscious for approximately 14 seconds. The team outside the chamber saw what was happening and began repressurizing immediately. The chamber was back to breathable pressure in under 30 seconds. LeBlanc survived. Fully. No lasting injury. He woke up on the floor of the chamber and later said he remembered the boiling and then waking up. 14 seconds of consciousness. The team repressurized in under 30. That margin, those extra 16 seconds before repressurization was complete, is the entire reason Jim LeBlanc is still alive. But what if no one is outside the chamber? What if no one is watching? There is one more rule, and it is the one thing your body will scream at you to do wrong. When the pressure drops, your instinct will be to hold your breath, to seal your lungs, to keep what air you have. If you do that, you will die faster and more painfully than if you do nothing. A sealed lung against vacuum is a bomb. The air inside expands as outside pressure falls. Your lungs can hold perhaps 2 or 3 times their normal volume before tissue tears. If your glottis is closed, if you are holding your breath, the expanding air has nowhere to go. It will rupture the alveoli. It will force air into your bloodstream. That is an air embolism, and it will reach your brain in seconds. The condition is called pulmonary barotrauma, and it is the one thing that can kill you before the clock even starts. The first rule of vacuum exposure is the most counterintuitive. Exhale. Let it go. Open your mouth and let the last air you will ever breathe leave your body. On June 30th, 1971, 3 men were coming home: Dobrovolsky, Volkov, and Patsayev. They had just completed the first successful space station mission in history aboard Salyut 1. They were in the Soyuz 11 descent capsule, re-entering the atmosphere. Everything was nominal. The retro rockets fired on schedule. The capsule was falling. And then, at an altitude above 100 kilometers, a valve opened. It was a ventilation valve on the descent module. It was not supposed to open at that altitude. It opened anyway. The cabin vented to space. The pressure dropped to vacuum in seconds. The three men were in their seats, strapped in, wearing only light flight suits. No spacesuits, no helmets. They were unprotected. The official record says they lost consciousness within seconds. But here is what a slow leak does that a fast one does not. A fast decompression, like LeBlanc's, is over in an instant. The pressure is gone. The clock starts. Everyone knows. A slower leak, or a leak that goes unrecognized even for a few extra seconds, steals time from a window that is already measured in heartbeats. The Soyuz 11 valve failure was fast, but it happened in a capsule that was already committed to descent. There was no one who could repressurize. There was no team standing by a valve. The capsule landed on the Kazakh steppe on schedule. The recovery team opened the hatch and found three men still strapped in their seats. They looked asleep. They were dead. They remain the only humans known to have died in space. The difference between LeBlanc and Soyuz 11 is not physics. The physics was the same. The Armstrong Limit was the same. The Ebullism was the same. The difference was time and proximity. LeBlanc was in a chamber on the ground, surrounded by people whose only job was to save him if something went wrong. Soyuz 11 was in a capsule falling from 100 kilometers, and no one on the ground knew the valve had opened until the hatch was lifted. The pressure loss was survivable. The chamber at Houston proved it. Primates and dogs have survived vacuum exposure of up to 2 minutes with full recovery. The survivability window is wide enough to act. It runs from 0 to perhaps 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, in which repressurization has historically worked. That is the cruelty of it. Space does not kill instantly. It does not kill violently. It kills slowly enough that you could be saved. And that window is the only thing between alive and gone. So here is what actually happens when you take your helmet off in space. Not the movie version. Not the explosion. Not the freeze. Not the burst. You have about 15 seconds. Your saliva boils. Your tongue fizzes. Your vision blurs as the moisture on your eyes vaporizes. Your body swells, perhaps to twice its volume, but your skin holds. You do not rupture. You are not torn apart. If you hold your breath, your lungs rupture and you die faster than any other outcome. If you exhale, if you let go, you get those 15 seconds of awareness and then you go dark. After you go dark, there is a window. 90 seconds, perhaps 2 minutes. In that window, if someone repressurizes the space around you, you might come back. You might wake up on the floor of a chamber, or in a capsule, with the taste of boiling still on your tongue. Space does not kill you the way you were told. Space does not kill you violently. Space kills you on a stopwatch. And the most terrifying thing about a stopwatch is that it can be stopped, but only if someone is there to stop it.